Roki Sasaki has found himself a team, and it's the LA Dodgers. So it was Dodgers or Jays, and LA wins. And we've been saying that a lot lately. LA wins, LA wins. They get another stud from Japan.
You know what? This is a move of epic proportions. I mean, really being able to land Sasaki just pretty much tells you a lot about the mentality of this ball club. It's great business because winning is great business. They went out there, won the World Series. They put a great team together. The offense is right where it needs to be. The rotation was already unbelievably superior. And now you add Sasaki to that one. They also understand the value of that Asian market. And you know that all eyes from that whole entire area of the world is going to be on the Dodgers. And that is absolutely huge. You know, hats off to Andrew Friedman, to Dodgers ownership of making and continuing to making things happen.
Well, we have a tweet, and I agree with what you just said. We have a tweet here, and this is a translation of a tweet that Sasaki put up on Instagram. I'm going to read it for you. It says, "I've signed a minor contract with LA, a minor league contract." That's what has to be. It has to be called that. So he is correct. It was a very difficult decision, but I'll do my best to make it the right decision when I look back after my baseball career. I want to slip my sleeve on the Dodgers uniform at the opening conference, thanking everyone who has supported me this far. Pretty amazing, Sasaki. Here's another tweet. The Dodgers have traded Dylan Campbell to the Phillies in a trade that includes international bonus pool space. That's per source. And then Jeff Passan of ESPN, Kylie, with the news on the Dodgers getting international bonus pool space for Sasaki from the Phillies. And that is important, obviously, because you need to have that space in order to pay for the international player. Jon Morosi joins us right now. And John, well, it's finally done. We don't have to talk about what if. What do you know about Sasaki to L.A.?
Well, Matt and Carlos, good evening. We are just getting started talking about the career of Roki Sasaki because this is a landmark day among many landmark days for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Now, I was told in the last 24 hours that a really key conversation in the midst of the courtship of Sasaki came between Yoshinobu Yamamoto and Roki Sasaki. And we rightly focus on Shohei and the Dodgers, and we should. But let's not forget that Yamamoto broke the contract record for the largest contract by a pitcher only. And then he went on to help the Dodgers win the World Series in his rookie year. So what I was told, Matt, is that the ability for Yamamoto to articulate the way in which the Dodgers helped him feel so comfortable in year one was instrumental in Sasaki choosing the Dodgers. Because remember, Sasaki is coming off a year in which he threw only air quotes, 111 innings. So he's going to have to find a way to adjust to the major league schedule. And the Dodgers, by using a six-man rotation often, have already proven to Yamamoto and now Sasaki that they can help you adjust to the major leagues. And Matt, that successful adjustment, which by the way begins with a regular season series in Japan against the Cubs, this is part of what I'm told Sasaki's ambition is to be the greatest ever pitcher from Japan to come to Major League Baseball. And you don't get there in the end without a successful transition. And Sasaki believed that he could best have that transition year in a Dodger uniform. You see what he was able to do coming over early. And I mentioned this detail, and we all know, those of us who have covered this story closely, we're still working on the exact particulars of what the final number is on the signing bonus, but it's going to be less than $10 million, in that range, because of the rules of MLB when you're not yet 25 years of age. He came over early, Matt, because he wants to be the greatest ever. He wants to begin accruing his time and his service and the ability to advance to higher contracts through arbitration and then get to free agency. He wants to start that clock early because he wants to one day do what Ichiro Suzuki is expected to do next week, which is get inducted and elected into the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Wow, that's a lot of information. You mentioned something along the way that I want to get into. You talked about a six-man rotation. John, They could have an 11-man rotation. What are we looking at here? It's on our screen right now, and Snell's on top. It's not in any particular order. And don't forget that Kershaw is a free agent. I mean, what are they going to do here? What are they going to do with these guys?
That is an excellent question, Matt. I think that the idea for the Dodgers, first and foremost, is let's bring in all the talent we can and then figure out the exact order of all of this later. I will mention that, to be fair here, the Dodgers have also had some struggles in recent years about keeping their starting pitchers healthy. Of course, it didn't stop them from winning the World Series last year, although they needed a big-time assist from Jack Flaherty coming over at the deadline for that to happen. Now you see the way it looked at the beginning of last year, now into 2025, and the difference there. How many names are on the left but are not on the right? And I will mention this to you. By the way, Clayton Kershaw's name does not appear on the right-hand side of your screen. There's a belief that he will sign with the Dodgers this season as well. So add one more name, who, by the way, is on his way to the Hall of Fame. You're right, Matt. It is an embarrassment of riches here, but it's important to mention, too, Glasnow's coming off of injury. Snell had something of a shortened year last year because he started late after the prolonged free agency. Maya's coming off of injury. Gonsolin's coming off of injury. The Dodgers themselves proved in 24 you very rarely have 10 healthy starting pitchers at any one given time. But if we were ever to find that experiment, Matt, the 2025 Los Angeles Dodgers are that team.
And did you ever think in our lifetime we'd be using Clayton Kershaw's name with "by the way"?
By the way.
By the way,
Clayton
Kershaw. I mean, it's ridiculous. I want to know more about Sasaki. You're a world traveler, and I don't say that as a joke. You're everywhere. What's he like? Is he introvert, an extrovert? I think that people who watch the games, when you're dealing with a player who doesn't speak English, sometimes it gets lost. What are they like? What do you know?
I would say more introverted than Yamamoto. Yamamoto is known as being very extroverted, and Sasaki, based on what I'm told, is a bit more introverted. He, of course, went through a very difficult time early in his life when he lost very close family members in the tsunami and in the earthquake in Japan. So he went through a very, very difficult time, Matt, as a teenager. And in many ways, those who know him best would say that tragedy shaped him. And indeed, there are those who say that his decision to seize the day, if you will, and come over 2 years before he'd actually be able to make much more money, more of like what Yamamoto made on his entry contract, was by going through that personal tragedy, he came to realize at a very young age, nothing is promised in life. And so he has that perspective of chasing his dreams. And so I do think, and again, the tragedy perhaps contributes a bit to his introverted personality in some ways. But I do think this, when you're surrounded by Ohtani, Yamamoto, you're surrounded by Betts and Freeman, and Clayton comes back in, he will be able to fit in and be a part of this amazing collection of stars. Whereas if he had gone somewhere else, he might have been the guy that all the marketing campaign was around. And now I think in this case, he is one of the guys, but he is not necessarily the guy when you've got a few players on this roster who you might say are truly one-of-one type players.
I think that's a very, very good point. So that brings me to this. We were told, and it's been reported, it was L.A. or Toronto as of a day or two ago. What are the Blue Jays going to do now? They're in a really tough spot.
They have been swinging and missing on a lot of major free agents, Matt, and this, of course, goes back to Ohtani a year ago. Here's their rotation. They will likely look for some additional rotation help. Of course, Yadiel Rodriguez is someone who they have a lot of high hopes for, but he also does not have an abundance of major league experience. Of course, when he left Cuba, he lost some time in terms of being able to build up his innings. You see the Manoah report at the bottom. He is going to be out for a while, so they will probably bring in one more starting pitcher of some capacity. They also just added Jeff Hoffman to the bullpen, but the biggest question there is, what will they do with Vladimir Guerrero Jr.? And of course, Bo Bichette, both Vlad and Bo entering their final year of their contracts. There have been a lot of reports and indications that with Pete Alonso looking more and more like he is not going back to the Mets, are the Blue Jays the spot that he lands in after they have missed on so many other free agents? They've been linked to Santander. They've been linked to Bregman. At some point in time, Matt, Toronto will get a significant player, but I do think tonight this news is met with the most acute disappointment in Toronto, much more so than any of the other markets, because they felt oh so close on Ohtani. They were in there on Burns. They were in there on Soto. And now, again, runners up once more for Sasaki.
Jon Morosi, we thank you for all the information. As always, you have more in the segment than I can keep track of. We thank you. We thank you, John.
Thanks, thank you. Thanks so much.
All right, you bet. All right, so I mean,
yeah.
Give me the former player view of what the Dodgers have.
This is potentially the best rotation in the history of baseball. Period. Full stop. Now I'll tell you this. Yes, Morosi pointed it out. They have had struggles staying healthy. Right? You're like, oh, Carlos, don't jump the gun. I'm not jumping the gun. You look at the potential of this right here, this group of stars, it's just pretty clear. And I'll, whoever tries to challenge that type of statement, it must be crazy. This is absolutely insane. Embarrassment of riches is an understatement. And now, six-man rotation, keeping everybody healthy is going to be one of the priorities, of course. It always is. But particularly this group, because of Ohtani coming back from injury, right? You have to keep him healthy. Yamamoto getting acquainted with the big leagues here in the United States. And now Sasaki doing the same thing. But then the rest of the guys, and I say the rest of the guys are not just second-hand players. I mean, these guys are stars of their own. This is insane what the Dodgers have been able to accomplish.
The trickle down here. The trickle down, as you see the guys that the Dodgers either re-signed or signed, the trickle down is a bullpen. And do you even need one? Or you take the starting pitching and you say, okay, you're in the pen, you're in the pen, you're in the pen. I mean, this is out of control.
Yeah, you could do that, right? You can move your pieces around and put some of those guys in the bullpen.
It's a half joke. They need the bullpen. But my point is, the options are endless.
Yes, and isn't that exactly what you try to accomplish? You gather as much talent as you possibly can so that you can move your pieces accordingly and strategize. The situation gets difficult when you don't have the weapons to compete. Right. They have an excess, in their arsenal. So they're sitting pretty right now.
And then Dave Roberts is going to say, well, guys, you never have enough pitching. Well, really? No, I think you do. I think you do, Dave.
You're good.
Well, I mean, Dave is awesome.